Quiet, please. Quiet, please. Na huiúisle agus a cárte. Bhaim anáilte a choróid ar fad a seo tróna ag an ócáid íontach a líana seo I gcathair na Gaillimh. You're all very welcome, and it's so wonderful to see such an extraordinarily big crowd and on such an appalling evening. But there's lots of heat and warmth and joy and pleasure in this room today. It's a real pleasure to have with us this evening the Galway Art Club celebrating their 80 years. It's a remarkable achievement. They were the beginnings of the visual arts in Galway, I suppose, and their beginnings have all been beautifully documented in a new book which has been written by Alison Titley. And I have to say, Alison, who comes from Tuam, is the engine that has driven you all in here this evening and driven all the members of the Galway Art Club to great heights and to produce wonderful works of art. And to open this very special exhibition, it's a real pleasure to have Ronnie O'Gorman with us. His grandfather was deeply involved, not necessarily in the beginnings of the art club itself, but in the beginnings of a movement to try and organise a municipal gallery for Galway. He was with a Galway art group, deeply involved and deeply committed. And
I didn't know that, Tom, until I saw the book.
Really?
Yeah. Come to Kenny's, you'll find out lots of things. Well, now that he knows his grandfather was deeply involved, it's a real pleasure because obviously this has all percolated down to Ronnie himself. So to open the exhibition, would you welcome please Ronnie O'Gorman. Cannot tribune or interrupt in this now.
Always.
Hurry up now so we can hear the speech.
Okay.
That's worth waiting for.
That's it. That's good. That's fantastic.
Good.
Okay.
What's your name?
You've already asked me. Here I am.
Thanks very much. Sorry for the
Nice to see you with the camera stand there.
Anyway, Mr. Ronnie O'Gorman.
Thanks, Tom. Tom and I are great friends and we go back a good while, and I really was very interested to see that my grandfather, fair play to him, he was dead a long time ago, so I didn't know a lot about him, and I'm so interested to catch little snippets of news about him, so thank you very much, Alison, for that. But anyway, the first time interest was expressed in establishing an art gallery in Galway was 1912, more than 100 years ago, and of course, nothing happened. But some momentum got behind the idea in 1922, when Charles Lamb came to Carrow and settled there a few years later. In 1935, he set up an annual summer school of painting, and soon the Galway Art Club was up and running. It exhibited and sold some of his paintings. Some of his paintings, Tom, you'll be impressed to hear, were sold for the appalling amount of £19. There were some even for £17.
I sold some myself for that price too.
The Galway Art Club was started in the autumn of 1937 in the living room of Geraldine Plunkett's home in Lennaboy Park. Now, I live in Lennaboy Park. I didn't know Geraldine Plunkett lived there as well. With the fellow art enthusiast Francis Corbett. A committee was quickly established which included Cara Donagh, Herbert Broderick, Martin Flynn, Archie Barnett, Donna MacDonough. You will find, ladies and gentlemen, with joy, some of their paintings in this room this evening. Geraldine Plunkett is particularly interesting, not for being a great artist, but for her extraordinary energy. She is described in Alison's book as being very clever, quote, talented and a resourceful woman, a gourmet cook, a dressmaker, an embroiderer, a carpenter, a plumber and an electrician. And it is such items of interest that artists are made of. If anyone has read Geraldine Plunkett's autobiography, All in the Blood, edited by her granddaughter Honor O'Brulcon, They will get some idea of her and her husband Tom, who was Professor of Chemistry at UCG, dangerous and risky involvement in the War of Independence. She was also a co-founder of Untitled. The fact that the art club was established and held an annual exhibition, and that there were the beginnings of a worthwhile collection at UCG, local artists were encouraged to get painting, to come out and display their work. And as you'll see, many of them excelled. Again in this room you'll find paintings by Francis and Lucy Corbett, Matt Flynn, sculptures by Claire Sheridan, and the extraordinary John Mulhern, whose painting of the courthouse echoes the American artist Edward Hooper and his lonely urban landscapes. And there is Claire Sheridan. I remember Tom's mother describing Miss Sheridan's coming up High Street from her home in Spanish Arch House, wrapped in an immense white cloak with strong Celtic motifs. There's a lot of stories told about Miss Sheridan. She was certainly an artist of great talent, but she was a rather naive lady, and later in life she converted to Catholicism and became a huge, enthusiastic Catholic. And when the building of Galway Cathedral was starting, she decided she would contribute, and she made this larger-than-life-size statue of the Virgin Mary, and standing on her lap, the boy Jesus. And Canon Glynn, I think it was, Tom, that came to see it, and she was so pleased that she knew it was going to be received well and put in the church, and we'd all love it for years and years and years. And Canon Glynn looked at it and said, no, that's not acceptable. And she was very taken aback, and she said, why is it not acceptable? And she was told, because the boy has no trousers. Poor Claire Sheridan. She said, well, I can tell you, Father, she said, in all the pictures of the Renaissance infant Jesus, they had no trousers either. But still and all, there was nothing she could do. But over in the corner, though, is the very interesting, the head of Trotsky. I think he was Minister for Propaganda, I'm not sure, in the Great Russian Revolution and its success. And in 1920, somehow she inveigled her way into the Kremlin. And she did a clay model of Lenin, who, amazing, allowed her in the room, but he never looked up, he just carried on writing. So I don't think that was very good. But Trotsky was different. And I couldn't resist, Tom, this quotation from Anita Leslie, who of course was a cousin of Claire Sheridan. And she delves into Claire Sheridan's diary, which is very extensive, to write this little sketch. And this is Trotsky now, a serious man. During the long, undisturbed evenings in the dusty ballroom, Claire began to feel Trotsky's passion for and it was helping his portrayal. He was a difficult subject. Trotsky resembled no other man. He looked like a caricature of himself. His expressions changed continually. His eyes lit up and flashed. He seemed highly strung and always on edge. During their last evening, however, the electric light failed. They sat talking for some time by candlelight. And then Claire walked over to her clay and stood back looking at it. It's finished, she said. What do you think of it? It is finished, isn't it? Yes, he said, the head is finished, but is everything finished? He was very close now. I will tell them in England how nice you are, said Claire. You can tell them, he whispered, that when Trotsky kisses, he does not bite. She realized that he was mad about her, and strangely for Claire, she became afraid. She did not think him unattractive. He was so quick-witted and sensitive, but she felt the danger of the situation. It was all the more dangerous because she really liked Trotsky and wanted to go to southern Russia with him. I'll ring up Lechenev about you, Trotsky exclaimed. If you were an enemy agent, I would have to shoot you myself, and then I would shoot myself. Wouldn't I? Now, perhaps he wanted to be certain from the security point of view and from the Bolsheviks, but nobody could be suspicious of a woman so lacking in guile as Claire. Well, she said, after he'd spoken on the phone, do you think I'll see the Crimea? Trotsky put his arms around her. C'est à vous de décider, he said. Do come with me, do come to me. And he kissed her passionately before leading her to the door. And there he stood for a long time just staring at her. Whatever happens, he said, I will keep in the memory of a woman with a golden halo of hair and hands covered with clay. I'm also excited to see in this wonderful room many paintings from living artists, including Patsy Farrell's attractive riverside walk and the fine sculptures of his brother Gabriel. Watch out for a painting by Joe Scanlon and his late wife Claire's beautiful long walk study. Others to seek out include Colette Kelleher, Antoinette O'Malley, Mary Glynn, Mary Barry, John Connolly, Sheila Mangan, Joe O'Donnell, Mary Cook, Penny Cahill, Olive Brian, Veronica Joyce, Margaret Carney, Trish Darcy, Jimmy Sheridan, B. Walsh, E.W. Rinn, Maura Mansfield, and that boat by Breed Staunton really rides those waves, Breed. Well done. Now, the beautiful illustrated book by Alison Titley has done a great service for anybody involved in the art story of Galway and Tuam. Alison's father was a founder member of the Tuam Art Club, and I warmly recommend her book to all lovers. The illustrations are really excellent, and it's printed, I just saw, by Clodori out on Cashariga. And for those with any interest in promoting the arts locally, and I say this sincerely now, we need your help, because this exciting exhibition is not only an important chapter in the history of visual art in Galway, but it once again puts focus on the value of a municipal art gallery for the city, which was first suggested at the founding of the Galway Art Club, and to some limited extent had been provided by NUIG. But I think the NUIG gallery needs to reinvent itself. Despite its best intentions, Tom, I don't feel that that gallery at NUIG meets the requirements of a public gallery today. A modern public gallery should be a lively, noisy place where young and old come and see not only the gallery's collection, but to see new shows coordinated by an imaginative and art-loving person who will bring great works of art to Galway. Why not? The National Art Gallery in Dublin, which has recently undergone a magnificent refurbishment, making it a truly inspirational space and a calm refuge from busy Dublin traffic. But every time I step in there, I ask myself, why does it not share its treasures with the rest of the country? In recent years, the National Gallery has put together innovative exhibitions with a cover charge, but still the queues are out the door. There is a huge interest in art. Many of these exhibitions that they had would delight and inform Galway audiences. There was a magnificent exhibition there of many of the works of Sean Scully, regarded as probably Ireland's greatest living painter. But let us see in Galway why he is so highly regarded. There was an exhibition a year ago of the drawings by Leonardo da Vinci on loan from the Royal Collection. And perhaps a not so successful but interesting exhibition, Beyond Caravaggio. Galway didn't get a look in. And if you happen to be in Dublin unexpectedly and try to get into one of these exhibitions, you are likely to be refused as you had not pre-booked. Now, not everybody, I'll agree, is retired like me and can enjoy free travel to Dublin to see such stunning works of art. But in recent times, the National Gallery had exhibitions of Edvard Munch prints, of Dutch masters, and one with a very local theme called From Galway to Linan, Perceptions of Landscape, very rare and exquisite watercolours by a William Evans of Eton College. It was practically, I felt, a disgrace that Galway was not offered this exhibition. There are several selected exhibitions of the paintings and drawings by Jack B. Yeats, practically our neighbour, including such entertaining themes as The Circus and Travelling Fair of Jack B. Yeats, the Sketchbook of Jack B. Yeats, which includes local scenes. Even as a starter, Tom, we could borrow an appropriate selection from the National Gallery's extensive archive of metalwork, furniture, glass, sculpture, miniatures, paintings and drawings. Many of these are not even displayed due to lack of space. Even to see a representative selection and have explained if necessary the work of possibly the world's greatest stained glass artist, the extraordinary and mysterious Harry Clarke. Of course, not only was he a genius with coloured glass, but he illustrated children's books with truly a magic brush. Watch out for them. But a great deal of his stained glass is to be seen in many West of Ireland churches. Quietly push open the door of Ballinrobe Catholic Church, or Newport Church, or my particular favourite, St. Barbara, St. Bernard, and the apparition of the Sacred Heart at Tullycross, Renville. Stop your car, go inside, and you will be amazed. There is so much art in and around Galway that an inspirational curator teacher would have the best time of his or her life. I'm talking too much now, so I'll just skip the next bit. I don't think we're asking too much for demanding a post for an enthusiastic, passionate art curator, and for an accessible space for the interpretation and enjoyment of art in all its forms. NUIG Gallery would be a good place to start, and surely in one of its new buildings an appropriate space could be found. And if some of us are too old to bother, let's at least give it as a gift to our children. Maybe that person is already here. I have great admiration for art teachers. I know Alison was a teacher, and Alison is here with me now. Let me give you one example from her inspiring book. The very first exhibition of the Galway Art Club included paintings and, quote, delightful designs in colour of fabrics, and their paintings of street scenes and country life were all admirable. All were submitted by the pupils at the Father Griffin Road, sometimes derisorily known as the Tech. There, the young people's inspiration was their brilliant teacher, Mr. George McCann. Perhaps we should call the new gallery, or rename the gallery NUIG as the George McCann Gallery, and start again. Thank you very much.
Well, now, in spite of all the interruptions, that was wonderful, and thank you, Ronnie, and that's why we asked him. The book and the cause of this entire exhibition is Alison Titley, and she is with us here this evening, and it's a real pleasure to have her with us. And she would like to say a few words now.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that I might begin by saying, follow that. I would actually like to take up a point which Ronnie made. He referred to the Galway Art Gallery Committee. This was an organisation which was set up in May 1943. The purpose of it was to provide a municipal art gallery for Galway. Although, as Ronnie pointed out, this has never been achieved, nevertheless, that organisation did collect paintings which are now housed in the NUI Galway Art Collection. I particularly asked that one of those paintings might be on show here, and that is The Pond, up here, by Roger Fry. And I picked out that painting because there's an article in the most recent Journal of the Galway Historical and Historical Society. And I thought that those of you who read that journal might like to see the actual painting. As Ronnie mentioned, I was a teacher in a former life. When the first Galway Art Club exhibition was announced in the Connacht Tribune, it was referred to as the outstanding feature of this week's cultural life in Galway. I think that such a heading might also apply today. For me, of course, the emphasis within this exhibition is on the mixture of paintings that is here. The artists involved, whom I have spent quite some time researching over the last few years. During the course of my research, I met quite a number of children, grandchildren, cousins, and friends of the artists. They were all very, very kind to me. They shared with me memories of their relations, these Galway artists. They showed me their art. And memories are very precious, and I have been very privileged. I am, of course, familiar, therefore, with various of the paintings in this exhibition. But what is really thrilling is to see the paintings together and to see the art of founder members of the Galway Art Club on show here. after so many years. And while many of their relations may well feel that they have been forgotten about, and their contribution to the art and art scene in Galway in more general sense, I mean, they also contributed to the cultural life of Galway. And their relations may well feel that this has been forgotten, whereas tonight you have all proved them wrong. I feel that the founder members of the club, Geraldine Dillon, Hubert Broderick, Archie Barnett, Francis Corbett, Matt Flynn and Cara Dunna will be very proud that 80 years on, the Galway Art Club continues to thrive. And that, of course, is particularly visible here in the section of the art exhibition by the present members of the club. So one way or another, the whole span of 80 years is on view here. That's a tremendous achievement, and I can't tell you how thrilled I am that that has been achieved. Thank you all very much for coming. Thank you particularly for those who contributed to this book, and there were lots and lots of people who did. And there have been lots of little bits that have niggled me, the things I can't find an answer to. So I turned up today. I met one particular lady who told me that Hubert Broderick had taught the novices art in the Dominican convent in Taylor's Hill. Now I knew that Hubert Broderick had been taking the exams which would lead to him gaining the qualifications needed to teach art. And I knew he didn't teach art formally in a school, but he did teach art in the evenings to the novices at the Dominican convent. So, tick.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Well,
Thank you, Alison. And if I could just reiterate a real heartfelt thanks to all of those families who have lent us the works of their siblings, fathers, aunts, grandfathers, whoever. It has made this extraordinary eclectic mix into a kind of magical thing, and as Alison says, those very courageous people that met 80 years ago would be bursting with pride if they knew and could see all of you here this evening. The exhibition is going to run for 3 weeks, and if you can get a chance to come back, do so when it's not quite as crowded as this, and when you can really get to see the work and appreciate the absolute quality of artworks on display. So thank you again, everybody. Thank you, Ronnie, and thank you, Alison, and enjoy the exhibition. Thanks for you coming. Well, thank you.